The Rams are one of 7 teams that is reportedly keeping tabs on this elite defender they could trade for. Also, we've got the NFL Combine buzz from the Rams. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramily, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're also available over on YouTube, so if you haven't yet, do me a huge favor. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, drop a like, drop a comment. Podcast listeners, write us a review or read on the show. My name is Doug McCain. I've covered LA sports for over a decade. 24/7 Sports, Bleacher Report, SI, Dodgers Nation, the LA Sports Report. And as always, I'm joined by the Rams pre-half and post-game show host for the Rams flagship radio station, ESPN 710 LA. He's entering his 12th season covering your Los Angeles Rams, the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers. You can follow him on X at Travis Rogers. And on today's episode, what did we learn about the Rams and what their intentions are for the upcoming draft from the NFL Combine? And the Rams are reportedly keeping tabs on what could be the biggest, most successful, biggest name player that could be dealt this offseason. We'll get into that today. But first, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential with wins in college basketball. You can parlay profit boost. Head to FanDuel.com today to get started. All right, Travis. So it was the Underwear Olympics, as you like to refer to them too. We got some interesting nuggets to get into from the NFL Combine, and that's where we were going to start. But first, we are going to start with a report this morning that the Rams are among teams that are, quote, keeping tabs on Raiders pass rusher Maxx Crosby. This is from Sports Illustrated's Albert Breer. The Rams are among 7 teams that are keeping tabs on his availability. You got the Cowboys, the Bears, the Ravens, the Bills, the Patriots, and the Eagles are other teams that he mentioned. So, hey, at least this is not like some of the other news that we've heard insiders report this weekend, that this team was one of 39 teams that met with this draft pick. Wow, that's pretty impressive. These are just 7 teams. Makes you feel a little better about the possibility.
Yeah, the odds are certainly better. That's for sure. I wonder, how much of this is them actively being interested in the player, and how much of this is them kind of saying, yeah, if it fell into our laps, it might be something that we would consider. I think because there's so much ground between those two things, between actively being interested in trying to acquire a player like Maxx Crosby, which I think every team in the league would love to have Maxx Crosby on their roster because he's such a dynamic player. But what is the cost? Both what is the cost in finances? What is the cost in draft picks and players going out the other way? And then there's in a perfect world, would we like to have him? Sure, but we're not going to really try to go out of our way to get any of these things done. I get that Maxx Crosby would make any team better, but the Rams have 2 guys that can go get the quarterback pretty well. You got Jared Verse, you got Byron Young. I know you're going to have to figure out if you're going to pay Byron Young or not. I know Jared Verse is due before too long, but this feels more like the Rams are going to be attached to anybody that's a pretty good player, because we're in a similar situation to where we were a few years ago, where it does feel like the Rams are getting close to that all-in, F them picks mode all over again. So anytime somebody's name like a Maxx Crosby pops up, I'm not going to be super surprised to see that the Rams get thrown into the mix.
Yeah, I think it certainly just reemphasized what we all expected from this offseason, is that they're not going to close any doors. Right. Everything is an option because, as you point out, they are all in. And I think it's become kind of an overused cliche, really, in sports, especially in the NFL, when teams are, quote, all in or not. But it definitely applies to the Rams because of Matthew Stafford, because of how close they've gotten to getting to and potentially winning the Super Bowl, losing to the eventual Super Bowl champions in close games 2 years in a row. And they're just sick of that feeling that they have, knowing that they're just have been the the bridesmaid, never the bride for the last couple of years. But I do think the interesting thing about Maxx Crosby is that it comes back to that Falcons trade for James Pierce. The Falcons want to get up and they get him. The Rams get that additional pick in the first round, so you've got more draft capital to work with. But that's kind of where negotiation starts. Teams start high, and right now the reports are that the Raiders are looking for 2 first-round picks for Maxx Crosby. And that's a little rich for a guy that's older than Micah Parsons. He's coming off an injury. And I look at Byron Young, and that's the interesting thing. If the Raiders were interested in Byron Young and potentially giving him a new deal, and maybe it's Byron Young and a first-round pick, or you include a second-round pick in there, and it's just not that double first-round pick for Maxx Crosby, then I think that talks could get a little interesting, and I could really see a deal like this getting done.
Yeah, 2 picks seems really high, right? I mean, 2 picks for a position where you don't have a ton of need seems incredibly high. Like, we've seen the Rams give up 2 picks before. They give up 2 picks for Jalen Ramsey, but Jalen Ramsey was a player that they desperately needed. This is a position where they have pretty good players already. If this was an elite corner that we were talking about, I think the deal might be done already. I think it might be one of those things that is, signed, sealed, and delivered long before it gets to the market for anybody else because they'd be so active. But I don't think that this is a price you're going to pay for a position where you already have 2 pretty good players and one in Jared Verse who might actually turn out to be a really special player. I do want to kind of go back to the idea of being all in because we, like you said, all in is not created equal across the league. There's a lot of teams that will say it, but not actually do it. The Rams have proven that when they want to kind of push all the chips into the middle of the table, they will. We've seen them do it before. We saw them do it with Von Miller. We saw him do it with Jalen Ramsey. We saw him do it with Matthew Stafford. We've seen him do it time after time where when they see Odell Beckham Jr., like when they want something, they go get it. It's not just a phrase that they throw around. It's a way that they actually kind of run their roster when they feel like they're close. And like you mentioned a second ago, they are close. And that the end of the Matthew Stafford era is somewhere close. I don't know exactly where it is. I don't know if it's the end of next year, the year after that, but it's not like you've got a 10-year window waiting for you right now. So I really do think that the all-in for them is different than the all-in for some of these other teams. I just don't think Maxx Crosby is something you have to have. If you say it's something you'd like to have, but they've got needs in other places, not at end.
So that's the big question. It certainly isn't this pressing need that cornerback is, or it's not one of those positions where if you're going to rank how healthy that position is in the next 2-3 years, you would say, oh, we need to go out there and get a replacement. But it is really interesting when you consider some of the other dynamics that are in play, and that by getting Maxx Crosby, yes, he signed a massive deal, but you would probably have to include either Byron Young, a Braden Fisk, or a Corby Turner in that deal, along with a first-round pick this year. And you could also possibly do a 2027 first-round pick, too. There's also future picks you could give up if you really wanted to find some different ways to get the deal done. So the point I'm bringing up, though, is that you got to pay some of these younger guys, too. So at the same token, it's not like all these guys are under these cheap rookie deals. I know that It feels like 2023 was yesterday, but we're in the big 2026 Q1. And at some point, you got to pay these guys. And it kind of makes you wonder, hey, what's a better option? Do we kind of set up to pay some of those guys 1, 2, 3, or all of them? We know they're going to pay Puka, but it also kind of is worth discussing. Hey, if you bring in Maxx Crosby, it's only a couple more years left on that deal, even though it's a very bloated contract. And also, you kind of ask yourself the question, as good as those young guys are, will they ever be as good as Maxx Crosby? Which of them will? And I always go back to watching the All-22 of Super Bowl 56 and seeing how open Jamar Chase and how open T. Higgins were on that last play. But guess what? He didn't have time to get those guys the ball because there was a guy named Aaron Donald that absolutely disrupted and wrecked that play. And having those guys like Von Miller and Aaron Donald, those future Hall of Famer types that just say, you know what, game's over because I want it to be over right now. I don't care what receivers or running backs you have. Game's over, okay? Maxx Crosby, I think, has the potential to do that more than I think Byron Young does.
I agree. I totally agree that Maxx Crosby is a better player than Byron Young and could do what you just described more frequently. No question about it. But I think that there's a couple of things. Number one, I like the guys that you just mentioned, I'm kind of talking about Aaron Donald again. That's the one guy on the defensive side, along with Jalen Ramsey in the last, LA Rams era 2.0, that they've gone out of their way to pay defensively. Now, you could argue that Maxx Crosby is one of those guys, that he's on that level. He's an all-pro, best at his position, et cetera, et cetera. But he's an older player than those guys were when they came to the Rams. Rams obviously got Aaron Donald in the draft. They got Jalen Ramsey, who's still just getting started out of Jacksonville. So I don't know if they want to go and spend that kind of capital on a guy that is on the wrong side of the age line, right? And the Rams spend money on offense, and I keep coming back to that. Now, if there's a way to back into it, then I'm not saying that it would be a closed door for sure, but this does not feel like something that they aggressively pursue on defense. They aggressively pursue things on offense. So if it happened, I'd be thrilled. I mean, I would love to see him, but they got bigger problems than somebody that can get to the quarterback. They got to find somebody that can cover, and the philosophically, they tend to almost always go to offense. So we'll see, but I'm not optimistic, but crazier things have happened.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, we definitely probably can spend another episode on some of the pros and cons, but as you mentioned, he's kind of on the older side at that position. He'll turn 29 during the 2026 season, a very physically demanding position. He missed 5 games in 2024 with a high ankle sprain. He played through a knee injury in 2025 before he was placed on the injured reserve. They also had surgery. So there's some of those cons for sure. But I think, look, I'm pushing for a big deal, and I'll push for Maxx Crosby. I got the producers in my ear saying they want us to disagree on more stuff. So there you go. Just kidding. There's really no producers on this show. Then
you're looking at him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I will say this: if they do, here's my prediction. If they do ultimately swing a trade for Maxx Crosby is going to be the first player to jersey swap with his own teammate after the first game, because he's going to demand Matthew Stafford's jersey because he's his biggest fan. I don't know if Stafford will take Crosby's jersey, but I know that Crosby is going to want Stafford's, get the autograph, get the picture. I guarantee that's going to happen.
Whatever it takes. Yeah, I would love to have him here. I just, sometimes, and this is the least scientific thing in the world. This is the least, insider thing ever, but sometimes it just feels like something's going to happen. It just feels like they're getting closer to make. This doesn't feel like one of those things. This doesn't feel like something that they're really running down to try to get done. This feels like something that is more of a, if it happened, great. And if I guess the good news too is the Raiders are dumb. The Raiders do dumb things. So maybe there's a way to, pry him loose from the Raiders for something less than it might take for another organization. But I'm just not feeling it. I just don't see like it. It just doesn't feel like something we're actually going to get to see.
That's a good point. The feeling is definitely not there right now, like some of those moves that we felt in the past. But coming up next, by the way, the producers tell me I got to get to the break. We got some bills to pay, some ads to read. So coming out of the break, we got some big moves the Rams could make, but not on current players, on players that are going to be drafted. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
College basketball is nonstop. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night. So from early tip-offs to late-night West Coast shootouts, there's always action on the board. And now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any college hoops parlay you want. Rivalry games, ranked matchups, whatever absolutely get you going, right? You can mix spreads, totals, player props to match how you see the slate playing out. Then you can apply the profit boost and instantly bump up that potential payout, right? You want to get with the Bruins, go for it, right? You want to ride Arizona, go for it. Go safe, go bold, go ride with the team you've been following all season long. It's your parlay, it's your style, and now with even more upside behind it. The tournament is awesome. Conference tournaments are awesome. Why not make it even a little better with all of this by heading to FanDuel.com, and you too can get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. Also, workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed, sponsored jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for, skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping that the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that pretty much says everything. In the minute or so we've been talking, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're spending, or if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all the boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help you get the premium job status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support the show by saying you heard about it on Locked On Rams. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs.
And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Locked On Rams, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Now, the #1 sports podcast network, your team every day. And speaking of every day, now's the time, Ramley, to join the Everydayer Club. You get access to ad-free audio. You get a members-only Discord where you can talk Rams football with Rams fans, including myself, 24/7, 365. You get exclusive merch, other perks, exclusive content. So be sure to join today. Go to LockedOnRams.supercast.com to learn more about joining the Everydayer Club. All right, Travis. So here in our second segment, the Combine went down over the weekend. First guy I do want to talk about, though, is Makai Lemon. Like, he went viral. That was kind of one of the biggest stories. This Combine was just the way he was looking at the reporters answering questions. When he gave his top three, he said Jettas, Jamar Chase, and JSN. But it was the look in his eye, how fierce he was, the way he was talking. I really don't cut away to audio of players on this show or coaches, but if I was going to, it'd probably be this one, just because the dude sound like a straight up assassin. And by the way, like, I don't know. First of all, like, I don't know, like, tell me you don't have like friends in LA, right? Because I have friends that talk like my man, that kind of like that swag, right? He's kind of got that like that vibe where it's like he's just like was super chill about the way he was like kind of talking. People just were kind of running with this, but I liked it. I liked the attitude, the vibe. This guy has wide receiver one energy in my eyes.
Absolutely. That was the thing that I took out of it more than anything else, because it was a weird mix of both incredible intensity and yet almost aloofness. Like, I don't even know how you thread that needle of just burning a hole through somebody when you're talking about something and at the same time feeling like you're barely even paying attention. Like, it was a weird mix of things in it. But I agree with what you said. It also, look, number one wide receivers are typically cut from a different cloth, right? They kind of see the world differently. They kind of behave differently. Like, Devontae Adams is a very normal number one wide receiver, or at least he is at this point in his career. Like, Puka is totally off the map, right? Puka's all over the place. So when you get a guy like Lemon, who is just like, wait, what's going on with there? Like, wait, huh? It doesn't work against you, I don't think. Like, if this were a quarterback, you'd be like, yeah, man, I don't know. But with the wide receiver, it's like, yeah, I liked it. He just seemed like he was on his own program completely. So didn't change my opinion of him at all. I'd love to see him in a Rams uniform, but it was bizarre, to be sure.
I mean, there was a former Steelers player who said that he talked to people and that they basically said that he had absolutely bombed it as far as his interviews and things like that, and the teams weren't feeling it. I'm like, really? Like, if this is kind of one of those desperate for a story things, it's like, come on, man. Like what I said just a couple minutes ago, like people from the West Coast, people from LA, it's like, we're chill, we're confident. We don't have to go and they're like, hey, buddy, like, hire me for this job. Like it's like, if you want, it's fine. We know we're going to be great at it. Like, it's up to you. Like, it's like, hey, do you want wide receiver one that's going to make plays for you or not? Like, but I'm not going to sit here and beg you to hire me. It's like, it's kind of that delusional, like, self-confidence that I think works for guys like Makai Lemon, because they're like, hey, like, don't worry about what I'm saying. Look at my tape. look how I cooked these DBs. You want the guy that is not that good, but it's here like, hey, sir, please hire me. Give me the guy who I think is going to be a better football player, not a guy that's going to impress reporters and GMs in interview rooms.
Two things. Number one, yes. Look, you can have whatever attitude you want, I believe, if you're a wide receiver that puts up numbers, right? If you're somebody that's going to get open, conduct your interviews however you want to conduct your interviews, right? There's nothing that's going to say that I would see them and go, I don't want that guy. Why? Because he gave an awkward answer at an interview podium that just doesn't add up to me at all. I'm with you. Number two is, you said it. The combine is one of those things where we're going to have to find something to talk about. And for whatever reason, we decided to land on Makai Lemon's interviewing techniques as opposed to whether or not he's not fast enough, whether or not he's, has good enough hands, whether or not he had success in the Big Ten or whatever it is. It's just, we're always going to find somebody will do well on the bench press. Somebody will do poorly in the 40. It's like, there's always something that we seize onto. And I guess this was the thing for the weekend.
Here's the thing, too. I mean, not everyone thought he did a bad job. There were some people that thought he did a really good job. Some people thought this person says, hey, I thought he did a fantastic job. I thought he crushed it. Signed Deshaun Foster from his first Big Ten media day. So, I mean, look, my point is it could be worse. It could be worse. I thought Makai Lemon did a solid job as far as, hey, now we're talking about him too. Like sometimes it wasn't like it was this USC season where they made the CFP and they made it deep or they were a part of the national conversation like they hope they are in most years. So Makai Lemon kind of, I think if there was anyone that may have not known about him or they have, of course, like Carnell Tate, a guy from Ohio State ahead of him, guys like that. Like maybe it's kind of one of the things where like, hey, like maybe you didn't like what he said, but now I'm going to look at your tape. Now we're going to talk about you more. Now, here's the thing. If you have any interest in the NFL draft and you didn't know who Makai Lemon was a couple of days ago, you know who he is now. And I think there's something to be said about that because when they look at his stuff, they're like, oh, this guy's really good.
Well, look, anybody that's an NFL scout that didn't know who he was should be fired on the spot, right? Like if you don't know who this is nonsense. This is noise. This is something that gets brought up because there's nothing actually happening. We know Makai Lemon's really good. You know that he's going to get drafted probably in the first round. You know that he's going to get taken and go to a place and put up pretty good numbers, assuming that the system's in place and the quarterback's halfway decent. This is stuff that we say, well, what can we talk about today? Well, and I'm not talking about us. I'm talking about that combine. This is why I am not a combine person to speak of, because imagine if your team, the reason the Rams don't go to this, I think, speaks volumes to how well run they are. We already know who we like. We already know. If you run a certain number, they'll let you know. It's not like they keep it a secret that you have to keep it, do it with your own watch. That how many reps did he have? Oh, he had 24. Okay. You don't have to sit. It's so goofy to me that people get so tied up with this stuff when the vast majority of these guys have played football on TV, on film for years. You know whether or not they can do what you're going to ask them to do. If you want to measure their hands, be my guest. If you want to micro-analyze some goofy interview, be my guest. But I think the good teams probably know what they want to know long before these combines actually start.
Well, Travis, I'll tell you why. Because we're desperate for football. We are having football withdrawals. I went to this thing last Sunday called a farmer's market, and I dropped a 30-piece on a pie. Okay, like it was a great pie. It's gone, but I mean, like,
pie.
It was just a nice cherry pie. No, it's super basic, but it was a banger. Like it was one of those things where I was like, I'm gonna have a piece, and then the piece became a pie. I was like, there's the best thing when you buy a pie from a farmer's market is like you can't like just run to Ralph's and replace it to hide the evidence, right? Like I need to get the guy's number and like show up at his house. But hey, can I get a replacement so my wife doesn't kill me type thing? But I definitely really did that, and I'm feeling ashamed. But I feel better now. But kind of the way I kind of think, like we'll go to the next segment here, talk about some Jeremiah Love. But one thing that really kind of makes me really intrigued by the possibilities of the wide receiver spot is, will they take a wide receiver if the cornerback they want is off the board? Or is it the other way around? So is it a thing where the Rams have their 5 guys on the board, whether it be Monsieur Delane out of LSU? Is it Gerard McCoy, another cornerback? And if those guys are off the board, then does that mean that Makai Lemon and Jordan Tyson, the receiver out of Arizona State, or the Carnell Tates of the world are still on the board, and because of that, they take the highest quality player, or do they go out there and try to package those picks for a trade? So that's kind of where it comes down to me, is kind of what is the strategy? Are the Rams serious about a receiver, or is it, hey, we'll take corner as long as the one we want is there? If not, then we don't think that we're just going to take a corner, just take a corner. We'll get the best receiver possible.
Yeah, look, I'm sure they have plan A and then plan B, D, C, F, Q, X, Y, and Z. I'm sure they have all of the, the permutations of what may happen, but I guess what I'm getting at is I think they have these guys on their radar already. And if stuff starts to come off, that's fine. They can backfill with these things. Or if they have a guy that they really like let's say that Makai Lemon is their number one destination and they're afraid somebody else is going to take him, then they can package and move up. I just don't think that this week they have information that they don't had a week ago based on an interview or a workout or anything else. Now, I'm sure at some point somebody's interviewed somebody and thought, oh my God, that guy's a crazy person. No way. Run for the hills. And I'm sure the opposite is true too, where maybe you thought a guy was, maybe a knucklehead and you got a chance to sit with them and it changed your mind a little bit. But I think that's incredibly rare. I think they're going to take the players they want to take, and they'll have the scenarios laid out to where if they need to move up, they can. If they can fall back, they can. I think that this is stuff that has been long decided or certainly will get decided by the time we get to the draft.
And speaking of interviews, the Rams did a formal interview with a player that is considered to be universally the best at his position. They kind of bring in some questions how the Rams might feel about their own players at that position. We'll talk about him next on Locked On Rams.
We live in a world where we can stream just about anything, order food in minutes, and carry supercomputers in our pockets. And somehow, I don't know how, but buying tickets to a live game still feels complicated. Hidden fees, jumping prices, and endless steps to actually get it done. There just has to be a better way. And there is. That's why I use GameTime and the GameTime app. It gives fans the advantage and makes getting tickets simple, whether we're talking about NFL games, a concert, comedy, whatever you're into, right? Whatever you like, you need a ticket to, GameTime's the way to go. You just jump on the app and take for the tickets for the upcoming event, and it only takes you a couple of minutes. You can see panoramic views from the seat. The price you see includes all the fees. How many times have we talked about that? No surprises at the end. Just 2 taps, and you have great seats, locked in, fast, easy, done. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download GameTime today.
And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Travis, so I thought this was pretty interesting. Jeremiah Love confirmed on Rich Eisen's show that he had a formal meeting with the Rams at the NFL Combine. Of course, Rams GM Les Snead and head coach Sean McVay aren't in attendance at the Combine, so make of that what you will, but still pretty interesting considering you just signed Kyren Williams to a new extension. You still have Blake Corum with 2 years left on his deal. You drafted Jarquez Hunter in the 4th round last season. I think this is pretty kind of a due diligence thing, and I think if the Rams think he's special, it's kind of one of those things where if he falls, maybe you consider it, but he's considered to be the top running back that's going to be selected in the draft. There's not a lot of those just surefire, hey, I'm the number one guy in my position type players. He's that guy.
He's a great player. He's a great player. Like, I was watching him this last season in college. He looks like an NFL running back to me. Like, I don't think that there's any ambiguity about that at all. What doesn't make sense to me is what you laid out, Doug. Like, this is just a position that feels like they have really well covered. Kyren Williams, after putting it on the deck against the Niners in week 5, he didn't fumble it again the rest of the year. So hopefully we're done with that particular phase of his career. He does what he does every game. He scores a touchdown. He picks up big first downs. You know, you're never going to call your friends and saying, are you seeing what Kyren Williams is doing? But the guy just constantly puts up really effective and good numbers. He's good in pass protection. You've got a really good backup in Blake Corum who could slide right in the event that something happened to Kyren Williams. he went from a guy last year, we're like, why don't they use him more? He got that arm injury to this year. It's like, hey, man, is he actually the number one back? They're incredibly close. They do a lot of things really well. You mentioned Hunter as well. They spent, I wouldn't say a high draft pick, but not a super low draft pick either. That just feels like a position that they've got really well taken care of. Now, like you said, sometimes blank just falls in your lap and you're like, okay, he's right there. And maybe we can flip him for something else. But I'd be really surprised to see Love, end up with the Rams, even though he's a terrific player. It has nothing to do with the player. It just has to do with what the Rams already have on their roster.
Yeah, I don't think he's like a Saquon Barkley, right? Someone that's special, that's an extreme game changer. That's something that I'd be like, okay, well, he's just the best player. Right? And then you're too good of a team to be drafting guys that high. You're not going to trade up for a guy like that. We already have our Notre Dame running back in Kyren Williams. Only reason why I'm open to the idea of a wide receiver is because we don't have a wide receiver 3. Devontae Adams is probably going to be here for one more season. You need a 1-2 punch, and Puka Nacua is still with some injuries. So I think it makes more sense to add a playmaker there. Running back doesn't make sense. And you got to feel for Kyren and Blake Corum to hear stuff like this. Has got to kill their vibe. Speaking of killing the vibe, if you want to kill a vibe, Travis, try to pay with Venmo at a farmer's market. I didn't know that I was such a vibe killer. Like the look on their faces, I'm just trying to buy a $10 like celery juice I shouldn't be buying in the first place. Like the look of like Venmo, like we just have that there as a curse. No one actually pays a Venmo, and then all the people around me are like whipping out their cash, like making me feel even worse. I'm like, I learned my lesson. All right, I won't pay with Venmo at a farmer's market, Travis.
Cash is making a comeback. I hit a taco stand the other night that was cash only. Caught me by surprise. I was ready to do it electronically, and I don't know. Maybe we're re-entering the cash market because I got caught flat-footed with my cash the other day too. I don't know.
Hey, if you don't take Venmo or Zelle, you're not getting my business, period. Okay? Like, I'll just go to 7-Eleven.
But you wouldn't have gotten your cherry pie. So
that's true. That's true. Like, I guess I go to the ATM. I haven't been to an ATM in like a long time. So I'll get out to get a couple 20s or something like that.
Keep that emergency pie fund in your shoe or something.
I really have to do this pie. Like, honestly, like, I don't know, like this dude's legit. Like for me, it's like pie ranks right up there. I'd take pie over like most like desserts.
Oh, pie's
like,
great. Yeah.
Pie is like very, very like highly regarded for me. So I'll try to get you on one of these days, but that's coming up on next episode. We'll talk about shout out to the Kamenetsky brothers for starting the blame pie, by the way. They always get ripped for that. So yeah, we should do a blame pie for week 16, the week 16 loss. My favorite thing to talk about in the history.
Done. Love to.
Let's do it. We'll have plenty of time after the draft for that kind of stuff. So, all right, guys, thanks for rocking with us here. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMac_LA. And you can follow the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers, at Travis Rogers. And until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.